How do people know what ancient languages actually sounded like? Well, a big part of it is actually spelling errors. Like if we take Latin, for example, so much of what we know about Latin today is like classical Latin. That's what Cicero was writing in and all these other famous figures in the Roman Empire too. And because so much of that got left behind, well, we have such a thorough understanding of Latin today. I mean, you can even take a Latin class in school, right? But it's classical Latin. It's nothing like how average people actually spoke, because that was vulgar Latin, and it was filled with grammatical errors and incorrect pronunciations, all of which eventually added up to become the Romance languages. But the little we know of that Latin, the day-to-day Latin that most people were actually speaking, is because of things like this. Graffiti in Pompeii, for example, that wasn't bound to the same rigid standards that formal Latin was. This inscription, for example, if it were to have been written in standard Latin, would have been "Quae bella es," you who are beautiful. But it's not spelled that way, and that suggests that whoever was writing it might not have been hearing what we know as the classical Latin pronunciation. Or maybe they just forgot to write a letter. We're going off of one sample right now, after all. But when you add all these things together, you can learn a lot. And yeah, these pieces aren't standard Latin. They differ even between each other in a lot of ways. And because of that, they offer an incredible insight into how average people perceived the language they were speaking. But that's just one way, for the record. Linguists will also look at how poems were written back then, or how words got borrowed into other languages, for example. Now, with that in mind, let's go thousands of years in the future for a second. At that point, English, or even anything resembling English, will not be spoken anymore, sorry to disappoint. But we can imagine that people will still have reasons to study English as it existed today. So much media has been created in English, I mean, we still study Latin, right? But how will people know how English was pronounced? I mean, we have audio recordings, right? We didn't have that for Latin, but will those stick around for thousands of years? And even if they do, which ones will be chosen to stick around? What if people's understandings of how English was actually spoken are all like news broadcasts or something? That doesn't paint a full picture, right? But thankfully, those future historians will have other things at their disposal too, because they'll probably find a lot of people having written stuff like could've, or confusing there, and there, or even triangle. All that is to say, next time you find yourself getting peeved about a typo or something like that, just think to yourself, it's for the historical record. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about, and see you later.